So at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, especially Dr. Shashank Shah and his team, for the kind invitation to this conference. This is the first time that I am part of a conference which is exclusively, organized by a bariatric surgeon. I have a lot of friends in the fraternity, and I personally believe a lot in bariatric surgery. However, the topic which I have is something that, as an endocrinologist, I deal with in the clinic, and that is medical weight loss. So good evening, everyone, and I'm going to speak about the predictors for long-term success of medical weight loss. I'm a consultant endocrinologist practicing in Navi Mumbai, and my agenda for today is briefly divided into two sections. One is what is medical weight loss, what does it include, and what are the predictors of weight loss. Unfortunately, our options for medical weight loss are very limited. So they can be divided into nutritional modifications, exercise mediated weight loss, or a combination of both of these. Use of approved medications like Orlistat. All the other medications have now been taken off the market, which includes rimonabant, sibutramine. All of them have been taken off the market. These are drugs that we do use, liraglutide or topiramate, but these are not approved exclusively for weight loss, at least in India as of yet. So as you can see that the options for medical weight loss are largely restricted to lifestyle modifications, which include diet and exercise. Now today, I am not going to go into any of the details of either nutritional modifications or exercise mediated weight loss, because what I think is that any particular diet or any particular exercise regimen, if done consistently and persistently, will result in some kind of weight loss. But what we are interested here is that which of these interventions is successful in the long term. So maybe 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, what are the factors which help us to predict that this person is going to be able to not only lose weight now, but maintain this weight loss for the years to come? So this is a beautiful article which was published in 2005. I specifically chose this article as the base of my talk because the authors are also the main founders of what is called as a National Weight Control Registry, which has been following patients who have attained weight loss for close to about 2 decades now. I mean, almost 15, 20 years. And they've been regularly publishing updates onto what are the factors which they find predict long-term weight loss maintenance. So this was published in 2005, and some of the later literature will also include newer studies. So first of all, let's be very clear. What do we mean by weight loss maintenance? So weight loss maintenance has been defined by Wing et al. As intentional weight loss of at least 10%, which is maintained for at least a year. Now, the reason that the figure of 10% was selected is because it usually, what we all agree, is about 10% of weight loss is necessary to make a meaningful difference in the risk of diabetes or cardiovascular disease, and that short-term weight loss plans can be effective, but maintaining weight beyond a year would mean that whatever has been done has been successful and will be persistent. Now, how many people actually do maintain long-term weight loss? So this is a survey which was done by McGuire et al., where they've included patients who've tried to lose weight by multiple methods. So we're not talking about any particular diet or exercise pattern here. Patients could have done anything to lose the weight. And what they find is up to 20% of overweight individuals are successful weight losers. That means 20% of all overweight individuals who attempt to lose weight will be able to lose at least 10% or more of their body weight and will be able to maintain this weight loss for at least a year or more. So this is the weight control registry that I was talking about, which has almost 4,000 participants. The average age of these participants is about 46, 47 years, 77% of whom are women. And the minimum weight loss achieved by people in this registry is about 13.6 kilos, with, of course, many people having lost more and maintained it. Now, what was the initial result? So the initial result shows that weight loss can be maintained if a low calorie and low fat diet is followed. Now, low fat diet specifically meant that these people did not frequent fast food joints and ate out less than about 2 times a week and had fast food less than once a week. So low calorie, low fat diet, which usually was a diet of approximately 13 to 1400 kilocalories per day. all the patients had high levels of physical activity, and by high levels they mean 1 hour per day of moderate aerobic activity. So now, as endocrinologists, whenever we talk about exercise, the ADA recommends 30 minutes of exercise for 5 days a week. However, for successful weight loss, this amount is too little. It's good for maintenance of maybe glycemic level in patients with diabetes, but for weight loss, more is required. So high levels of physical activity, 1 hour per day or more. Usually this involved brisk walking. So about 70 to 80% of the participants did not do gymming, did not do any other exercise, but mainly it was brisk walking. What was also very significant is the participants weighed themselves very frequently. So some participants weighed themselves daily, and the minimum that they did was at least once a week. So being aware of the weight and immediately taking steps when weight crosses a certain number helps to maintain weight loss. And eating breakfast daily. This breakfast usually consisted of either a cereal or fruits in most of the patients. So these are the four core um, uh, core principles which predict that these people are likely to maintain weight in the long term. There are other factors which also are important. What is called as cognitive restraint. Cognitive restraint means the ability to stop yourself from overeating, and those people who had lower levels of dietary disinhibition, so they were able to control their eating and did not lose control over eating, were more likely to uh, maintain the weight loss. What was also very interesting is that if the participants who had lost weight behaved as if they had just lost weight recently. That means they continue to follow the four principles that are enumerated and continue to do them at an intensity which was almost the same as when they were losing weight, then these people achieved successful weight loss. There was also the impact of losing weight and maintaining it for minimum of 2 years. So what this table shows is that in people who maintain weight loss less than 2 years, they were quite likely to almost 100% likely to gain at least 2 kilos of weight over the next 1 year. However, by maintaining weight loss beyond 2 years, the chance of weight regain reduced by 50%. So if somebody lost weight and maintained it for more than 2 years, then they reduce their chance of weight regain in the long term by almost 50%. So what it means is if you lose weight and maintain it right up to about 2 years and a little beyond that, then the chances that you will continue to maintain this weight loss are very good. And those who were able to maintain weight loss beyond 5 years had a 70% reduction in the risk of regaining weight. So the weight they lost in the first 2 years and ability to maintain it beyond 2 years was very predictive of long-term weight loss. Now, what about diet? Again, no particular diet has been selected as the one which is most successful, just an overall low calorie and low fat diet. But what was very interesting, so a lot of times when you read prescriptions given by nutritionists, they talk about cheat days, cheat meals. But what this registry finds is that if you allow flexibility in their diet, that means you expose people to high risk situations where they have a chance to lose control over their eating, then they're more likely to regain the weight and not able to maintain the weight loss. So having no flexibility or little flexibility, no weekend cheat days, cheat meals, and maintaining consistent diet over the week as well as the year. So for example, Diwali cheat week, or maybe Christmas cheat week, New Year cheat week, all of these also. So whenever there was flexibility offered and the decorum was not maintained, these people were more likely to regain weight and lose their weight loss maintenance. Now, this is the part where the frequent weighing or daily weighing on a weighing scale comes into play. So, in people who check their weight daily, and even at the smallest amount of weight gain, they tend to autocorrect themselves. So, even if they prevented small regains in weight, then they were able to avoid the larger relapses. However, if the smaller regains in weight were avoided or ignored, this usually ended up into larger relapses, and this was critical to delay recovery among successful weight loss losers. So identifying small regains and quickly taking care of them will prevent it from degenerating into a larger relapse in the weight. So far we've talked about diet, physical activity, cognitive restraint, ability to have a decorum, and lack of flexibility. What is also very important is that when people have medical triggers, so this is a study which looked at the predictors of weight loss maintenance, and what they found is if somebody had a history of increased glucose at any time in the past, they were 4.5 times more likely than people who do not have a history of increased glucose to maintain their weight loss. Second is that, of course, decreased consumption of fat over the past year also predicted weight loss. But what I'm trying to highlight here is in people who have a medical trigger, this helps to predict long-term weight loss. This medical trigger in this study was increased glucose, but in our day-to-day activities, increased cholesterol, increased blood pressure. So I think a complete evaluation of an overweight or obese person, pinpointing the medical conditions which may have started like pre-diabetes, and then showing this to the patient helps to not only trigger the weight loss, but also helps them to maintain the weight loss in the long term. Now, this was something that I could not resist. And a lot of women who come to me to lose weight, they may not be very overweight or obese. They don't want to lose weight for health reasons, but for mainly appearance reasons. And how does this compare with losing weight for health? So one thing was very clear, that those people who lost weight for health were more likely to maintain weight loss. And those who lost weight for appearance were less likely to maintain the weight loss. What was also very interesting in this slide, what I'm trying to demonstrate, is in those people who are most concerned about their own appearance and how they looked to themselves, they were the ones who actually gained some weight. Those people who were maybe a little bit interested in how they looked, but not so much, they were able to lose weight. However, the people who lost the most amount of weight, which is 6% in the study, were those who were least interested in their physical appearance to themselves of how they looked, but more for health reasons or for others. So that is very important, is what is the motivation to lose weight. This is one other study which I will very briefly discuss, that if there are multiple health behavior recommendations, can we find out what is it in these multiple health behavior recommendations which again predict the long-term adherence to weight management. Basically, it's very, I think, intuitive, that in those who did everything, they had the maximum ability to lose weight and were able to maintain the weight over a period of 1 year. Those who responded to nutrition did the nutritional interventions, but not all of the other health behavior recommendations, they managed to maintain weight. Those who maintained physical activity also managed to maintain their weight. However, those who didn't do anything obviously were the least likely to maintain weight. What is very important, what I want to bring out in this particular study, is that either sticking to diet or sticking to physical activity, both of these did have some impact on weight loss maintenance. Meaning thereby that if you do diet and exercise both, great, you have the best chance of weight maintenance. But if you either stick to the diet or you stick to the physical activity, you have an almost equal chance of maintaining the weight loss. What I'm trying to communicate is that we need to individualize for the particular patient what they enjoy or what they respond to or what they're likely to adhere to, and then encourage them to do that. So for those people whom diet maintenance is not that easy, but they like physical activity, then they could be encouraged to continue physical activity. In those who don't enjoy physical activity but find it easier to adhere to diet, then they should be encouraged to adhere to their diet, and maybe the physical activity can be a little easier on these people. So customization of your health management behaviors, depending upon the person's choice, can help you to decide who is to be guided as to what they have to do and help the patient to maintain weight loss. This is a study which was published in 2017 in Biopsychosocial Medicine. This again underlines about how food disinhibition, so losing control over eating or being addicted to food prior to the weight loss intervention, and a tendency towards this in spite of initial weight loss, usually there will be a resurgence of the weight. So obviously those who lost a larger quantity of weight in the initial period were more likely to maintain their weight. However, if they lost a larger quantity of weight in the initial period, but they had a tendency to food addiction, or they had a tendency towards disinhibition or loss of control over eating, then they were less likely to maintain the weight loss as compared to those who had good control over their eating pattern. What I'm trying to bring out here is a thorough psychological evaluation of any patient who comes to us for weight loss, finding their emotional triggers for eating, finding what is their attitude towards food, how easily they can control food. And this would help us to kind of customize the plan for the patient in a much better manner. So not only is the diet, the physical activity important, but also what is the psychological component, which can be very, very important in helping patients maintain weight loss in the long term. I'll end with this brief study, which is the Portuguese Weight Control Registry, which basically talks about, again, identifying those people who have had weight loss and what were the factors. Now, in this study, for the longest time, I think what I've heard people say is weight loss is 90% diet and 10% exercise. What this study shows is that 80% of participants who lost significant weight and maintained this over a period of the study engaged in levels of activity which were more than 150 minutes per week. Almost 250 per minute per week was the average. And also men tended to accumulate more physical activity minutes than women. This would also kind of again help us to customize the plan for our patients, and men are more likely to engage in more physical activity and can be encouraged to do more of that, while women, if they're less likely to engage in physical activity, could be given a choice of better nutritional modifications. So what were the most frequently reported strategies for weight loss and weight maintenance over and above physical activity? Again, these were simple measures, all of which were statistically significant. Keeping healthy foods at home, consuming vegetables regularly, eating breakfast daily, having higher levels of physical activity, weight self-monitoring, establishing specific goals, reducing the portion size which was used, reducing consumption of carbohydrate, and increasing consumption of protein. So as I'm going through these slides, so weight loss and weight loss maintenance doesn't seem to be rocket science. But there's simple small things that we need to kind of reinforce to our patients. Some of the other factors, and this was very interesting, those people who had a lot of encouragement from family and friends were more likely to lose weight and maintain weight. Also, vitality is a psychological component of sorry vitality is basically something, sorry um sorry so yeah, so vitality scores at baseline, that is the psychological component of well-being, where a subjective feeling of enthusiasm, vigor, energy, and alertness, if this is there in a person, this predicts that they are more likely to maintain their weight loss. So I will end this presentation by saying that long-term weight maintenance is possible after intensive weight loss. Up to 20% of overweight people are able to lose weight and maintain it. When we say weight loss maintenance, we mean at least 10% of body weight maintained for more than a year. There are lots of factors both at baseline or during the first few years of weight loss which are predictive of long-term weight loss. But what I would like to talk about, which I haven't spoken about in the presentation, is that our patients need comprehensive care. So either going only to a nutritionist, going only to a physiotherapist, doing only physical activity or only nutritional modifications will not be sufficient. There has to be a multidisciplinary team approach where a nutritionist, an exercise therapist, a psychologist, an endocrinologist, all of them have to work together to help the patient lose weight. And only then will they be truly successful in both losing weight as well as maintaining their weight loss. Thank you.